Blackstone Audio presents Pretty Jane and the Viper of Kidbrooke Lane, a true story of Victorian law and disorder by Paul Thomas Murphy. This book is read by Gerard Reynolds. Preface. Jane Maria Cloven, the subject of this book, lived her short life in the middle of the long reign of Queen Victoria, the subject of my last book. The greater separation between the obscurity of the first and the renown of the second, in their day and in ours, could hardly be imagined. Queen Victoria, during her lifetime, was the world's most recognized human being. Since her death, no woman has been the subject of more biographies. Jane, on the other hand, lived in utter obscurity. A Deptford working-class child who spent most of the last third of her unassuming life performing the unceasing and lonely duties of a maid-of-all-work. Nothing that she did, nothing that happened to her, brought her any public attention whatsoever. Nothing, that is, until April 26, 1871, when she was found attacked and horribly disfigured on a quiet country lane outside of Greenwich. From the moment of that discovery to the moment of her death a week later, and for months afterward, with the investigation into her death and the trial of her alleged killer, the British public was enthralled with Jane Cloven. But after that, she was quickly forgotten. Or rather, she was almost forgotten. I first heard about Jane Maria Cloven 4 years ago, as I was making a tour of the major archives about London, Kew, Colindale, Windsor, for some final fact-checking for my last book, Shooting Victoria, the story of Victoria's bedevilment by 7 would-be assassins. I was at the point, in other words, where I was beginning to look past that project and to consider subjects for a new one. To celebrate Shooting Victoria's near completion, I had met with a few friends in a Greenwich brew pub, the Old Brewery, located, coincidentally, a very short walk away from the site of the home where Jane Cloven had worked until shortly before she died. Among this group was an old college friend of mine, Michael Guilfoyle, a gifted local historian who lives in Lewisham and who often conducts guided walks of nearby Brockley and Ladywell cemeteries. He has also, incidentally, served as a magistrate at the soon-to-be-closed Greenwich Magistrates' Court, formerly Greenwich Police Court, the site of much of the action in this book. Hungry for possibilities, I took advantage of the moment to pick Michael's brain. "If you were to write a book about anyone buried at Brockley and Ladywell," I asked him, "who would it be?" He answered instantly, "Jane Cloven." I asked him to write the name down. He did, and immediately below that wrote, "Let me die," the words found on Jane's monument, and very likely her last words. Michael then told me what he knew of Jane, of her murder, and of her alleged killer. Jane's story was captivating on its face, a tragic domestic drama laying bare all the small-scale but explosive gender, class, and sexual strains between Jane and those who employed her, the Pook family. I told Michael I'd look into the story further to see, as I'm afraid I put it, if the story had legs. It did. In writing Shooting Victoria, I was guided by the principle that powerful historical insights can best be found in exploring episodes of cultural collision. In all the clashes between Queen Victoria and the 7 malcontents who assailed her, that collision could hardly have been more obvious, or more dramatic. And, as I dug deeper and deeper into the case of Jane Cloven, I discovered that her case offered many moments of cultural collision equally striking and equally revealing. The crime became the subject of an exhaustive investigation by the Metropolitan Police and Scotland Yard, an investigation that exposes the strengths and weaknesses of policing at the dawn of the age of modern forensics. Pretty Jane is largely the story of this investigation, and of the controversy that followed it. The examination